What's good, kings and queens? Hope everyone's doing alright. This week's video is on the short list boxing world champions. Since there's about a little over a handful, I'll try to get them all in one video. So with that being said, let's start the video. To start off the list, Ratanapol Sor Vorapin. Ratanapol was growing up as a young struggling farmer. He then went into Muay Thai at the early age of 14 to help provide for his 14 siblings. After a couple years of Muay Thai, in 1990, Ratanapol transitioned to Western boxing and made his pro career at the age of 16 years old, followed up by his younger brother, Chaya, 2 years later at the age of 15. He will rake up 6 wins before encountering his first loss for the Thai national title against Aswin Sitlatmyeong, losing by points. He will get a rematch and he will lose again, this time by 3rd round knockout. After 2 wins against questionable opponents, Ratanapol would somehow find himself in an IBF Intercontinental title fight. He will win by KO in the 4th round. His next fight, he will knock his guy out in the 5th round. This will set him up to face IBF strawweight champion Manny Melchor. The 18-year-old Ratanapol pulled it off, earning a split decision to become the IBF strawweight champion. Ratanapol would become a man that night, and he would grow into the title he earned and make a whopping 20 consecutive title defenses before being dethroned by Zelani Petello. He would move up to light fly and have 2 unsuccessful runs to become champion, losing to Will Grisby and the great Ricardo Lopez. Ratanapol would finish his career 59-8 with 48 knockouts. His younger brother, Chaya, will become the bantamweight champion, be dethroned by Johnny Gonzalez and lose to the great Jerry Penalosa in an attempt to reclaim the title, and he will retire not too long from that, with the record of 75-14 with 50 knockouts. Before we dive back in, be sure to like and help the rest of the subs view this video, and if you're new, subscribe, because there is a huge amount not subscribed viewing instead of subscribed. I can say now YouTube has officially shadow banned this page. I'm hoping we can fix this by next year. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and let's get back to the video. Tony would start his career at the age of 16 in 1925. He will rake in 39 fights before earning to fight for the NBA title, which is one of the 2 major titles in boxing at that time. He will earn a draw against Bud Taylor, and very unfortunately, since the title was vacant, the promoter Jim Mullen kept the title. And you could say this was the original money belt. This was a belt with diamonds on it that was valued at $4,000, which is an incredibly large amount of money in 1927. Tony would lose the rematch 3 months later by decision. He would rebound back for the NY State Athletic Commission World Featherweight title, which is the other major world title to earn in boxing at that time. He would defeat Johnny Dundee by 15-round unanimous decision to become world champion at the age of 18. 2 years and dozens of fights later, he will become the lightweight champion against Al Singer, knocking him out in the 1st round. Just a couple months later, Tony would simultaneously defend his lightweight crown and fight for the junior welterweight title against Jack Kid Berg, knocking him out in the 3rd round. There will be a rematch at the end of the year for both junior welterweight and lightweight titles, where Tony will win by decision. He will later have a failed attempt at the welterweight title. However, he will put up a Hall of Fame career and become one of the greats, retiring from the sport at the age of 30 with a record of 141 wins, 23 losses, and 10 draws. Fighting Harada would start his career at the age of 16, raking in 27 fights in a matter of 3 years with a record of 26-1. Harada would be set up against the WBA lineal champion, Thailand's Pongkinpech, knocking him out in the 11th round.
Chance! 2 rounds. 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 2
However, Pong would win in the rematch the next fight. A year and a half later, and a 7-fight win streak, Harada was in line to fight the undefeated Brazilian great, the 47-0 Eder Joffre. Harada would defeat Joffre by split decision to become a 2-time lineal champion. He will make 4 defenses before being dethroned. He will unfortunately lose in his next 2 attempts of reclaiming the title. He will retire at 55-7 with 22 knockouts. Hiroki Ioka, the uncle of future Hall of Famer Kazuto Ioka. Hiroki started his career at 17 years old in 1986. He will blitz through his opponents to become the Japanese national champion in 7 fights and his 8th pro bout. At the age of 18 years old, he will face the WBC strawweight champion Mai Thonbodifon, defeating him by a landslide. He will make 3 defenses before being dethroned by the 7-0 Napa Kyatwanchai by majority decision in their rematch. There will be a 3rd fight where Ioka would lose by TKO in an 11th round after being knocked down 3 times. He will move up to light flyweight, and by a massive upset, he will defeat the 36-0 Myung Yo of Korea. Myung would defeat him in a rematch, and Hiroki would have a shot of becoming champion again 4 times, and unfortunately losing all 4. He will retire 33-8 with 1 draw and 17 knockouts. Cesar Polanco would start his career at the age of 15 in the Dominican Republic. After 16 fights against competition just starting their pros, and a draw against a contender, his folks felt like he was ready for the big show. A couple months after his 18th birthday, Cesar traveled all the way to Jakarta, Indonesia to face IBF Super Flyweight champion Eli Pacquiao, in which Cesar would earn the split decision victory in Eli's backyard. There will be an immediate rematch in which Eli will get the KO victory in the 3rd round. Cesar would bounce back to capture a WBC regional crown, and just before he got back into title contention, he would unfortunately come short to fighting for the title, losing to Ghanaian legend Nanaya Kanandu by decision. Cesar would retire a couple years later in 1993 with the record of 33 wins, 4 losses, 24 knockouts, and 1 draw. Jimmy Reagan. No one knows how old Jimmy was because of records, as he was listed older than what was advertised when he was very young. On paper, he made his debut at the age of 16, and within 11 fights, with the record of 7 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws, Jimmy is fighting the 38-10 bantamweight champion Jimmy Walsh. Jimmy would defeat Walsh by a 12-round decision to become champion at the age of 17 years old. His first title defense would be a historic one, as his title fight against Walsh was a 12-round sanctioned title bout. This title fight here was an official 20-round sanctioned title bout. The older, more developed Monte Attel took over the fight after the 7th round, dropping Jimmy 3 times in the 8th and the 9th round. He would shut out Jimmy for the rest of the fight to earn a decision on the cards. Jimmy will lose the rematch, which was a 10-round sanctioned title bout. He will move up to featherweight and knock out Peanuts Sinclair for the Intermountain featherweight title in the 13th round of a 20-round sanctioned title bout. Jimmy would leave boxing at the age of 28 with a record of 22 wins, 26 losses, 5 knockouts, with 13 draws. The Kameda brothers were a generational talent that the Japanese media machine had been waiting for since the departure of the great Joichiro Tatsuyoshi. Koki would make his debut first at the age of 17 years old. He would dazzle the boxing scene in Japan, rising up through the national ranks to capture the OPBF title, signifying he's the best in Asia, earning contender status. Koki was selling out arenas by the time he was 18. When his younger brother Daiki became of age, he also turned pro at 17. This made the Kameda brand huge, and by Daiki's 4th fight, he had to be the headliner to his own cards or be on the undercard to his brother for a mega event with a huge turnout at the gate. The network and handlers were all in on the family and wanted to get a title in their hands as soon as possible, especially after Koki's 1st round knockout against former world champion, the 46-7 Saman Sor Jaturang. The 19-year-old Koki was set up to face the WBA champion Juan Jose Ledetta. This was an exciting back and forth bout where the young contender showed a lot of heart and grit to hang in there and finish the fight strong. It was close, but the win went to the wrong guy politically, which was Koki. The public believed that Juan clearly won the fight, where TBS network was flooded with complaints over the phone and emails. Japan boxing fans issued out an apology online and even going as far as flooding the Venezuelan embassy with apology letters and praising the former champion Juan Ledetta.
12月12日、ついに因縁の対戦相手、ファン・ランダエタが上陸。
Cameda, que lo quiero mucho.
There would be an immediate rematch where Kameda would win much more convincingly. The brother Daiki, like Koki, would quickly rise through the ranks, just blasting guys out. By 18 years of age, thanks to his backing and popularity, he got a shot to face newly crowned WBC and lineal flyweight champion Daisuke Naito. Daiki would show his immaturity, resulting in one of the biggest meltdowns in boxing history and the biggest black eye to Japanese boxing, with those stating this is the day that boxing died. Koki was disciplined, Daiki was suspended, the father received a lifetime ban. The youngest, Tomoki, was sent to Mexico, more than likely to avoid any punishments despite not being involved with the incident. The JBC was going after the entire family. However, once things cooled down, this created a massive demand for Naito to face Koki. The fight was made, Koki wins the WBC lineal title, he restores honor back to the family and submits the family style of boxing as world class. This fight's numbers and ratings are yet to be rivaled to this day in Japan, with Inoue not even coming close. Only such a matchup to rival that is if Inoue's brother fights Junto, loses to Junto, Junto becomes undisputed, and he challenges Naoya in an undisputed versus undisputed battle. So anyways, Koki would lose his next fight against the Thai legend and former WBC and lineal champion Pongseklek Wongjongkan by majority decision. Since both fighters were number 1 and number 2, this will be the first fight at flyweight in its entire history of the weight class to be for the vacant Ring Magazine title, despite the lineal title's lineage never dying as it was being passed on since 1975. Kameda would move up to bantamweight, he would capture the WBA regular title, he would defy the odds and beat Hugo Ruiz, which was set up to fight a super fight with WBA super flyweight champion Kohei Kono. This fight was going to be huge and for the history books. However, right when this fight was going to be made, the JBC, who has a vendetta against the family, suspended the entire gym from fighting in Japan for a long time. This fight was moved to the States under the Fonfara vs. Cleverly card, and we would see one of the worst ref fights of the decade. A lot of bad calls by the ref, unnecessary point deductions, and a constant interference in the rhythm of the fight, to where the commission was like, bro, you need to chill. Then for the ref to say the next one, the fight is over, which he never clarifies what it is that's going to end the fight. A very strange fight that had the makings of a banger because both styles of each guy complemented each other. Kameda will lose on points despite the massive hole in the knockdown and point deductions. The scorecards were relatively close. Koki Kameda would pretty much be forced into retirement. His record would be 33 wins, 2 losses, and 18 knockouts. Marvin would start his career at the age of 16 years old. He would immediately attract eyes in the scene with his height, size, speed, and unique style, piggybacking off the Filipino boxing renaissance, backed up by Manny Pacquiao and Nonito Donaire. Marvin was in line to be part of that group. 13 wins and a 12-fight knockout streak later, the WBO regional champion, now 19 years old, Marvin would find himself fighting Jose Lopez for the WBO super flyweight title. The 19-year-old rose to the occasion and won by unanimous decision to capture the title. Due to out-of-the-ring distractions, layoffs, and blowing up in weight, Marvin never saw his peak. He would fully leave the pros in 2022 with a record of 22 wins, 1 loss, 15 knockouts with 1 draw. Pepino Cuevas is possibly one of the youngest pro fighters I've seen, making his pro debut at the age of 13 years old, which he would knock his guy out in the second round. Obviously, someone that young and underdeveloped fighting grown men will take a loss here and there, which Pepino certainly did by the time he was 18 years old. He had already racked up 5 losses to go with his 15 wins, and that will be the last time he'll lose for a long time. Pipino, despite in his last fight losing to Andy Price, he was still in line to fight for the WBA welterweight title against the great Angel Espada. Pipino would stop Espada in 2 rounds to capture the title and become the youngest welterweight champion at the age of 18.
Continuar, está Merced, ahí está Pipino, faltan 24 segundos, la pelea no sigue, el nuevo campeón del mundo, Pipino.
He will make 11 defenses of the title before being dethroned by the great Thomas Hearns. Pipino was unable to recapture the title, just failing short of contender status and a massive upset loss against Roger Stafford, and one last shot against Roberto Duran, which the winner would be in line to face WBA junior middleweight champion Davey Moore. Cuevas will retire at the end of the decade at the age of 31, with a record of 34 wins, 31 by knockout, and 15 losses. Morris East would start his career at 15 years old in the Philippines. Within the first year and a half in boxing, he suffered 2 close defeats on his resume. However, he would rebound, raking in 7 wins before capturing the OPBF title at 18 years old. In the final quarter of the year, now 19 years old, Morris gets the rare opportunity to face newly crowned WBA champion Akinobu Hiranaka after his upset win against legend Edwin Rosario, stopping him in the first round. This would be an incredibly close battle, with both guys getting the better of each other. East would deliver a shot the whole world would see, knocking Akinobu out to capture the junior welterweight title and become the second youngest champion in the weight class's history at the age of 19. Morris would earn 1992 Ring Magazine Knockout of the Year. In his first defense, he would get dethroned by former champion Juan Martin Kogi, getting stopped in the 8th round. Morris never saw the light of day on the stage, more than likely due to the fact he wasn't signed to a US promotion, which had almost a monopoly in the weight class, as this was the Chavez sweepstakes weight class, powered by Don King. Morris would retire just 3 years later with a record of 20 wins, 12 knockouts, and 4 losses. Kosei Tanaka is very high on this list due to the sheer amount of talent when he turned pro, getting his license, signifying he's ready to box tough opponents, and how fast he got into title contention. Unlike others on this list, Kosei turned pro at the universally legal age of 18. His pro debut was against a ranked fighter, a former regional champion, Oscar Rocknafa, which Kosei would beat him on the scorecards. He will have 2 quick fights 3 months apart. 3 months later, he's fighting the undefeated 18-0 Ryuji Hara for the OPBF title. Important title to signify you're the best in Asia and of contender status. Ryuji held world rankings within major belt organizations. Kosei had just turned 19 years old with only 3 fights on his resume. However, he would dazzle onlookers, showing his maturity to adjust and take over a competitive fight, to where he stopped Hara in the 10th round to become the OPBF champion. Tanaka would earn a shot to face the 24-1 Julian Yadras for Katsunari Takayama's vacant WBO title. The 4-0 19-year-old will put on a show to earn a unanimous decision to become the WBO strawweight champion, possibly the youngest fighter to do this within 5 fights. Tanaka would not stop there. He would move up and capture the light flyweight title in his 8th pro bout, flyweight title in his 12th pro bout, tying Vasily Lomachenko as the fastest to become a 3-division champion. After 3 defenses and being upgraded to super status, he directly challenged super flyweight champion Kazuto Ioka for the history books. He would lose that fight. Despite the loss, he only had 1 more shot really to make history and another title run, because the super flyweight class is politically a mess. So 4 fights later, Tanaka would get his final shot to make history to become the fastest 4-division world champion against Kristen Rangel, in which he would earn a wide decision to become champ and have his own separate slate as the fastest to ever do it, to 4 titles in 4 weight classes. A recent update, this year he would lose the title in his first defense against Kafu by razor thin, 114, 113, all across the board, split decision. Tanaka is the only active fighter on this list, so this is a developing story. Manny Pacquiao will begin his career at the age of 16 years old, and immediately he was seen as something special, but incredibly raw. By 17 years old, Pacquiao would be 10-0. He would be matched up against Rustico Torrecampo, in which Manny would get knocked out in the 3rd round. From the replay, Manny was not knocked out by a punch, so Manny's career just continued at the same pace. Just a year and 8 fights later, Manny would knock out the 34-2 OPBF champion Chokchai Tokvivat in the 5th round. A couple defenses later, he'll be set to face former Muay Thai, reputable amateur boxing star, and the WBC lineal flyweight champion, the 32-1 Chachai Sasakul. The 19-year-old rose to the occasion and defeated the peak in his prime 28-year-old, getting the knockout win in the 8th round.
ボディーブローを打ちました。今度は左ストレートダウン前のめりスウェーバックできなかったですからね、ロープがあったんでチャンピオンダウンです。おお、起き上がれないか。ダメかノックアウトなのか、カウントアウトか、立てません。いや完全な力負け。
Manny would make 1 defense before being dethroned. He would move up to bantamweight, make his way to America, train under Freddie Roach, and the rest is history, forming up a Hall of Fame career, becoming one of the most popular, influential faces in American sports pop culture of the 2000s.
They're all watching here.
Alright, let's get going before we get blamed for this.
Yeah, it's the first time I ever seen an accident because there somebody was taking a picture of him. It's amazing.
Mr. and Mrs. Pacquiao, right here.
Unlike anyone on this list, Wilfredo's fight schedule was unreal for someone who started their pro career at 15 years old. Within 1 year as a pro, he raked in 12 fights. 4 of those were within 2 months. Coming in 1975, he cranked it up with 11 fights. Some of those against competition to put him in line for a title shot. To end off 1975, the 17-year-old Benitez would defeat Chris Fernandez to set him up to face reigning WBA champion, the great Antonio Cervantes. Antonio was making his 11th title defense. He was the 4-1 favorite to win the fight. The 25-0 17-year-old would shock the world, beating Antonio by split decision to become the youngest world champion in boxing as a whole, a record that will never be beaten. Benitez, after a couple of defenses, would move up to welterweight and face another long-reigning champion, Carlos Palomino, who was making his 8th title defense. He will win by split decision to become a 2-time world champion by 20 years old, with a record of 36-0. After 2 defenses, Wilfredo will get dethroned by Sugar Ray Leonard, which he will be stopped in the 15th round. He will move up and become a 3-division champion, defeating Maurice Hope.
Now he backs up. Hope is the run away in this case. There's a right hand and down goes Hope. And I don't think he's going to get up from this one. A tremendous right hand from Wilfred Benitez, and that is going to be it. A smiling.
Cementing his already great career, he would go on to defeat the great Roberto Duran, then to just fall short, beating Thomas Hearns, losing by majority decision. This would really be the end of Benitez's career on this stage of the sport. The loss to Mustafa Hamcho would cement that. With decline in health and being stranded in Argentina for over a year due to a very dirty promoter, Benitez was irreparable, and teaming up with Emmanuel Stewart wasn't going to help the fact that internally Benitez was not in good shape. After 2 years in 1990, he will retire from the sport of boxing with a record of 53 wins, 31 knockouts, 8 losses, and 1 draw. And on top of that, this is boxing's champions. For more interesting topics, be sure to like, share, if you're new, subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell. Subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This project being on the Taylor Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Office Honcho, and I'm out.